Com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email. It's all right there. Also, Newsmax TV. Glad to have you along for the ride. Really glad to have this guy on. It's a former senator. He's a Republican from the state of New Hampshire. His name is Gordon Humphrey. Senator, how are you?
I'm doing well. Joe, how are you?
Well, I'm doing very well, and I know that you caught a part of my show yesterday, and I talked about this out loud because I was surprised to get the pitch. Couple of things, you probably heard me say this. Your guy needs to know your name is Humphrey and not Humphreys. He wrote it two different ways in the email, which was odd. But
yeah, it's just one. It's singular.
Exactly right. I would guess that if there were more Humphreys, we could say Humphreys and add the IES. All right. So
my wife says one's enough.
well, there you go. We'll find out by the end of the 10 minutes if I agree with her or not. All right. So you're a senator from New Hampshire. Let's start here. You ran as a Republican. You were a Republican. Are you still a Republican?
No, I registered as an independent the day after your man won election in November of 2016.
Did you vote for Hillary Clinton?
I did, yeah, reluctantly.
Well, let me ask you this. As a Republican, I know what that means. I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative, so that's different. But the party, the Republican Party. Exactly. I mean, it's a value system versus a party system, and I'm not a party guy. I'm a values guy. So having said that, how could you possibly, even holding your nose, vote for Hillary Clinton, who we know wanted open borders and this global sort of outlook, and that would kind of circumvent the Constitution that you went and swore on? Why would you vote for her?
I want to add one more thing to my bio so your
sure.
listeners really get who I am.
Sure.
I served 2 terms in the U.S. Senate, and when I first ran, I pledged that would not serve more than 2 because I think it's a mistake for members of Congress to make a career of serving.
We agree.
I think they ill-serve the nation and themselves and their families when they stay too long, which is the case in most cases. So anyway, I went home after 12 years, back to New Hampshire. I didn't become a lobbyist in Washington. I didn't hang out. I went home, earned an honest living, and lived happily ever after. So in 2016, I was so upset about this man, Donald Trump, that I volunteered full-time for several months for the campaign of John Kasich.
Okay.
And that didn't end too terribly well, as you may recall.
It did not. I do remember that. He didn't even go to the convention in his own state, which I think was kind of silly. But go ahead.
Well, I was a delegate out there, and I fought against the Trump nomination, but that didn't work out too well either. So anyway, I think Donald Trump is seriously flawed man. I don't think there's much question about that. But his since the election, I think his conduct has caused a great deal of worry, justified worry and concern about whether he is true to the oath of office to faithfully defend, preserve, and protect the Constitution.
And I want to go there, and we're going to go there a lot in this interview. But I asked you, the question that I asked was very simple. Why would you ever vote for Hillary Clinton? I couldn't, on my worst day, vote for Hillary Clinton. I would write my mother's name in before I would vote for her, knowing what it is that she wants this country to look like.
Well, I held both nostrils and clenched my teeth and did what I thought was right, just as you did what you thought was right.
Right.
And I feel honestly comfortable with that after 2 years of the trials of national trials of Donald Trump in the White House. I think he's violated the oath of office, and it's time for hearings by the Judiciary Committee, not the Intelligence Committee, not the Foreign Relations, but the committee charged under the House rules to determine whether evidence against a president is sufficiently strong to warrant articles of impeachment. And that's what I'm suggesting, that they should have hearings. And
you wrote an op-ed that I read, and it was very well written. I think it's almost 90% wrong, but we can break that down. And having it's former Senator Gordon Humphrey. He's from New Hampshire. I love the term limits thing. Ted Cruz is pushing for an actual bill that would become a law that would actually make for term limits for senators and for representatives. That's a smart thing. You and I are aligned on that. Again, I'm having a hard time getting past how a Republican, generally speaking, and I can speak for myself, a conservative wants smaller government, lower taxes, more jobs, more freedom, more liberty, government the heck out of our business. That's what Donald Trump has done. You might dislike the guy, but that's what he's done as compared to what we know Hillary Clinton would have done: larger government, higher taxes, more control, more regulation. So just on a political, forget that you don't like the guy, and maybe you think there are some things that he's done that are impeachable. Take those away, which you might have a hard time doing. Hasn't he done what you would have done as president? He's done what I would have done.
Look, getting good judges on the Supreme Court is terribly, terribly important.
Yeah.
Not to the extent of abiding a president who repeatedly violates the Constitution and the oath of office. And can we get on to those matters and discuss
Well, I think we should, because I think Gordon, what I'm finding out is you're not going to answer very logical, simple questions that I'm asking, and I love you like a brother, but you don't want to go there. You don't want to talk about Republican versus Democrat, which I think is a good starting place. I could never have voted for Hillary Clinton knowing how she doesn't align with how you feel and how I feel. I'm surprised that you did. Having said that, let's start. Go ahead.
In brief, Joe, I voted for the rule of law and for the Constitution. I felt that Donald Trump would not be respectful towards the rule of law and the Constitution, which, after all, are all we have between us and the worst kinds of government.
And you thought Hillary Clinton would be, knowing about the email scandal and the server and all the lies about the videotape and Benghazi? I mean, she was a horrible candidate. That's why she lost.
It was a very poor choice, and I hope the parties do better this time.
I could agree that the Democrats need to do better. I think that we've got a pretty good guy on the Republican side. We can debate that next time. What is the first thing that you would do if you were on that committee in the House of Representatives to bring articles of impeachment against this president? Remember, it's got to be high crimes and misdemeanors. It's got to be something really, really major league. And by the way, those watching and listening, impeachment doesn't mean you get removed. That means that it's a hearing to see if there are charges you can make against him. Then the Senate would decide whether he's guilty or innocent or not guilty. The Senate, of course, in the current form and fashion, would never say that he's guilty. It's a Republican Senate. Where do you start if you're on that committee? What's the first thing that he did?
Well, you got it right. They need to hold hearings and weigh the evidence.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I said that's how it works. I don't want them to hold hearings. You do. But what are the hearings? What are they going to be based on?
You got the process.
Yes,
right.
sir.
Well, okay, for starters, has the committee needs to weigh the evidence and decide whether the president obstructed justice in the firing of James Comey, the FBI director, because Comey wouldn't play ball and backing off on the General Flynn investigation.
Right.
Those are the allegations. There's a prima facie case that is the case, but the Judiciary Committee has the evidence to subpoena witnesses and records and get to the bottom of it that you and I don't have that power.
No, so and I understand. So the first thing is the firing of Comey. Was that obstruction of justice? My answer is of course not. Yeah, and I think that you're smart enough to know that is of course not. The president is the boss of the executive. Hold on, Gordon, stop. First of all, if you cut yourself off in the shot, it's going to be cut off on television too. So you can be mad at me if you want. Just don't lean forward that much. You scared me. All right. Having said that, let me just make the case very quickly because I know I'm right. The president is the guy who is the boss of the Department of Justice. The president can fire James Comey or anybody in the FBI any day of the week that he wants to. The president did not walk up and say, hey, you stop that Flynn investigation or else you're fired. Now, had he done that, maybe you have a case. He still is allowed to do it. Don't take my word for it. I mean, every leftist Democrat lawyer you can find is going to agree with me. The president has the right to fire and hire in the Department of Justice. He controls that. But the allegation is, and Donald Trump hasn't admitted this, is that he said to Comey, hey, can you see yourself clear to let this Flynn thing go? Now, you think that's obstruction of justice? I'll listen to it. Go ahead.
Well, I think the committee needs to use its subpoena power to get to the bottom, find out whether that's true or not, and to weigh that bit of evidence. Let's say it is. Let's say he did it. Let's say he said it. How is that obstruction of justice? I think it's called abuse of power.
No, it's not. He said, can you see your way clear? And Comey didn't drop it. Well, Flynn is still in trouble, Gordon. Flynn is still in trouble. It didn't go away.
Am I going to be allowed?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just wondering if we're going to stay on the same page here.
Okay, look.
Flynn is in trouble. His career is over. It didn't go away. It didn't work. He didn't make him stop the investigation. Respond to that. Go ahead.
Thank you. You and I are having a disagreement about whether that constitutes
we're allowed
evidence of abuse of power. I say it does. You say it doesn't. Well, the committee needs to weigh it. It's the committee's decision, not mine or yours. The committee likewise needs to weigh the evidence that the president, over the period of 2 years, harassed his attorney general and ultimately fired him because Sessions would not intervene in the special counsel's investigation. He had recused himself.
Well, that's your assumption. I mean, it's your assumption. He could have fired him the day he recused himself. He didn't. He kept him on for 2 years. He recused himself before he took the job.
Ultimately, he fired him, and the evidence seems. But
he also hired him, knowing, I would assume, knowing that he was going to recuse himself, feeling as a senator that he had.
Joe,
Gordon, I don't think there's a delay, but there isn't a delay. But I think that you think that you're going to speak over me, and you're not. And I don't want to speak over you. I want to really have a conversation. You completely blew it on the obstruction of justice thing. That's one win for PAGS. Gordon, you lost that one. They shouldn't be investigating it because already Flynn is facing charges. His career is over. They didn't drop the case. Even had the president made him drop the case against Flynn, it's still not obstruction. The president has that purview. He runs the Department of Justice. Having said that, this one on Sessions, this was a handpicked guy by Trump. And he recused himself almost immediately, and Trump didn't fire him for more than 2 years. What makes you think that that's the reason why he did it? What took him 2 years then?
He didn't. It wasn't just one act of firing the man after 2 years.
But you just said he fired him because he recused himself. You said that.
He harassed him and humiliated him over a 2 year period, and said repeatedly he would not.
That's an opinion. Come on, that's an opinion. He harassed him and humiliated him.
All right. Here's a fact, and I need to correct you on
Go
this
ahead.
one. The president has said a number of times that he would not have hired Sessions had he known in advance that Sessions would recuse himself.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely 100%. You're 100% right. Jeff Sessions took the job, although everybody said he was a lying piece of crap KKK member.
Right.
Hold on. The Democrat senators called him a lying KKK member who's a racist, but he somehow got the job, and soon thereafter he recused. You're right on the timeline. So let's blow that one off because it took him 2 years to fire him. That's not anything there. What else you got? Let's talk about the emollients clause, which is a fun one for me. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. We need to talk about the rules here. You can't be a party to a debate and be the judge at the same time.
Well, I am, because it's called the Joe Pag Show. You're the one that wanted to go. You're the one that wanted to come on the show, Gordon. I didn't track you down. You tracked me down.
Right,
come on, let's do it.
Okay, you own the show. All right. All right. Well, let's talk. I'd rather talk about a violation of the oath of office.
Okay, go ahead.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution.
Yes.
The president has repeatedly attacked the press. Called the reporters enemies of the people, has in every way, well, that's an exaggeration, has in so many ways undermined the respect for the First Amendment. He furthermore suggested...
He didn't do that. But go ahead, we're listening. He didn't do that.
Well, you can't be the judge, you can't be the referee.
No, I can. I'm going to respond to you, but go ahead, finish.
And on another occasion, the president suggested that a news network, I forget which one, but one that he doesn't like, ought to be licensed. Well, in the first place, news networks are not licensed,
right.
so the president wrong about that fundamentally. Agreed. But the suggestion that news networks, or for that matter, Joe Pag's show, should be licensed. How would you like to be licensed? How would you like to be forced to license your program? You'd have to. Well, no,
I would be against that. So right, I would disagree with the president, but he didn't make that happen. He just said it. So let me go back to the allegation that he said the reporters are the enemy of the people. That's a lie. He didn't say that. He said fake news is the enemy of the people. Now, what is fake news? Fake news, as you know, because you're smarter than I am. You and I talked about this before we started. You're way smarter than I am. Fake news is when an organization or a reporter makes something up, and it's happened nonstop since this guy's been the president, whether it's who gathered to pray for Scalise around second base. CNN said it was just the Democrats. It was both parties. Whether the president actually visited Scalise in the hospital, CNN said he didn't. Of course he did. So, I mean, we can go down the list of the things they've made up about him, about Donald Trump Jr. Releasing details of an email a week before they came out. That's not true. He released them 3 days after Wikipedia released them. So the fake news media is a specific faction of the media that purposely is getting things wrong and then correcting it later very quietly. Is that the enemy of the people? I think it is. I used to be a journalist, won a lot of awards doing it. I know how to do the job. They're not doing it right. But Gordon, I'll finish with this. The president has every right under the Constitution, the First Amendment, to say his opinion on the news media. That's unarguable. Now, if he takes literal action as a dictator to lock up Jim Acosta, throw him in jail, throw the key away, you and I will be on the same side of this. He has every right to respond to how they're reporting on him, and he has every right to say they're the fake news. Does he not?
And the members of the Judiciary Committee have every right to determine whether or not there is a pattern here of failing to uphold the First Amendment, failing to...
He's actually using the First Amendment. I just illuminated that, but you ignored it. He's actually using his First Amendment right, is he not?
The Judiciary Committee...
Does he have it or not?
Everyone has a First Amendment.
Well, then leave the guy alone. Let him say what he wants. Why do you have a problem with that?
We're talking about the First Amendment right to free press.
Has he thrown the press in jail? Has he thrown them in jail and stripped them of their rights? If he does that, you and I are on the same side.
He exhibited a repeated pattern of attacking the First Amendment.
Yeah, but what is attacking? He's allowed to say it.
In that respect, he has failed.
Yeah, but either you and I agree that he has the right or we don't. Do we agree?
Failed to carry out his oath of office to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So when you become the president, when you become a senator like you were, when you become the president, do you therefore not? Hold on a second. We're 3 minutes over time, and we got to stop soon. We got to do it again very soon. It's a lot of fun. It is good stuff. But one last thing on the First Amendment. When you became a senator, did you give up your First Amendment rights?
No one gives up.
Well, then why don't you leave him alone? He can say anything he wants as a free, liberated American. When he takes action, Gordon, you and I will team up together to stop him. He's not taking action.
You need to try to listen to me.
I'm listening.
Members of the Judiciary Committee have the responsibility and the right to reach a conclusion about whether there is a pattern
on the grounds that he said something
of failure to protect, defend the Constitution.
He doesn't have to protect their First Amendment right with his own First Amendment right.
Including the First Amendment right to a free press.
Right. He hasn't stopped that. He hasn't done that.
You need to give me a chance to say why I came on your program.
It's 15 minutes long.
May I do that?
We're done after you say it. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of the start of committee hearings to determine whether the evidence is strong enough or not. In the meantime, those who share my point of view might want to go to needtoimpeach.com to learn more. I'm a volunteer in this. I have nothing to gain but enmity from some talk hosts. But it's all in good fun, and more important than that, it's important to a wise choice in the next election. So I appreciate the opportunity of coming on your program.
Well, Gordon, I appreciate talking to you. I think that you're a good guy. I think that you're completely out of line with this impeachment stuff. But I support your ability under the First Amendment to express it, to say it, and to come on my show and do it. A lot of people who do shows like mine would not have you on. I will, and I'll have you on again if you'll take the time. Again, I'm against the movement, but I'm for having more dialogue like this.
Terrific. So
all right. Appreciate you. We're back after this in the Joe Pag Show. Stay right here.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.